Why does it feel like we're at a point where we only have one option for anything? Where you shop, the technology you use, how you travel? Sure, there are different choices, but it's highly incentivized to choose from the biggest players. And even if you might think you are choosing something different, it usually ends up all coming back to the same few companies that own it all. When a corporation controls so much that it feels like you have no real alternative, then I would say it's safe to call it a monopoly. And when a few companies dominate certain industries and work with each other to control the market, we have to ask if we are truly in a free market, or are we just surrounded by a bunch of oligopolies? But what exactly is a monopoly? Per the definition from the Federal Trade Commission, a monopoly is when a firm has a leading market position and unreasonably restrains competition. Basically, they are the biggest player in a specific market and make it almost impossible for any other player within the same market to take a portion of their market share through whatever tactic they employ. The example the FTC loves to display regarding monopolies is the Microsoft antitrust case that took place in 1998. This case arose from concerns surrounding increasing market share that Microsoft had in personal computers. Microsoft had made it so you could only access certain Microsoft applications if you had purchased and used their Windows operating system. With this, Microsoft also packaged Internet Explorer for free to their customers, which led them to gain most of the market share in this space and eventually led to the downfall of their competition, Netscape, at the time. As a result of this case, Microsoft had to change its practices and allow third-party software on their systems as well as access to their APIs. If this case did not take place, companies at the time such as Google and Apple could have been hindered in their growth and innovation and most likely not be in the place they are today. Now, what if instead of one firm, it's a few firms that have all the market share and collude with each other to fix prices and the market so that the consumer always loses? That is what we like to call an oligopoly, and they are surprisingly more common than you think, but not much gets done about them since they use a bunch of loopholes to get around getting that type of title. To start off, when you go to a grocery store, you are often met with a huge building with thousands of different brands and options. What that building usually is does not change too much, but it looks like Walmart, Kroger, and Costco are seeming to dominate the market with 2025 data showing about 21%, 8.5%, and 8.2% market share respectively. In these stores, they usually differ slightly in price or have some type of rewards program to entice you to go to their store instead of their competitors. But in general, these stores primarily have the lowest prices or the best deals. In a time where prices are increasing and the average consumer is being squeezed for every dollar they have, it's no wonder why the biggest grocery stores are the ones that advertise low prices. Now, while Walmart, Kroger, and Costco are not necessarily monopolies, when you actually go into the stores to shop is where things kind of change. Each product you look at is fighting for your attention, so you'll end up buying them. Now, let's say for example you want candy. There may be multiple alternatives to a certain type of candy, and the market for it is very large, but you never see any real alternatives most of the time, do you? You just see the biggest name brands, always there, easy to find, taking up the most amount of space. Not only are all these name brand candies borderline owned by 3 companies, which are Hershey's, which owns these brands, Ferrera, which has these brands, and Mars Incorporated, which owns all of these brands. They set the prices and control the shelf space known as slotting fees for all these popular brands, as well as increasing prices for larger profits since they don't ever have to worry about competition. This is a very clear example that is not really hard to see the more you look into it, but this applies to many more things in stores such as drinks, snack foods, dairy products, personal hygiene, etc. I mean, Nestle, which is another huge conglomerate, owns so many brands. Like, just look at this. It really is crazy to think one company controls all of this, and we really think we have a choice by picking one thing over another. The products we see in these everyday stores may not be as we see it to be, and are actually much more limited in our choices than we are often led to believe. Now with travel, you might want to go by air for vacation or across longer distances. Whatever the case may be, air travel is extremely popular. You want to usually figure out the best pricing, the best time, the best accommodations, etc. However, the more you look into it, you have about 4 different airlines to really choose from in the US. These include United, American, Delta, and Southwest Airlines primarily, and there's a little secret about them that you might not know about. Just these 4 airlines carry about 76% of US domestic passengers based on 2017 data. In the past 2 decades, there have been major airline mergers to limit the competition even more. And when looking at the data, it doesn't look like any new competition will be coming anytime soon, due to the decreasing number of new airlines entering the market each year. This is in part due to the Airline Deregulation Act the United States passed in 1978. This stopped the federal government from having control in the airline market, which should theoretically allow a fair and free market to benefit the consumer, and initially it did. But now, we are stuck with these 4 airlines to choose from due to these companies making it so difficult to enter into the market. By limiting the competition through mergers or having prices and practices that newer airlines cannot compete with, this oligopolistic market is kept intact. Although it's legally not an oligopoly, it is from the perspective of the consumer when high prices and mediocre service is the outcome. I mean, why lower prices when you could just collude with your competitors and keep everyone happy but the consumers, right? Besides airlines, in the other sphere of travel, there are cars. There's the obvious oligopoly most people know with ride-sharing services, with Uber and Lyft controlling literally the entire market, with Uber holding 76% of market share and Lyft having 24% based off of 2024 data. The prices that consumers pay for these services are a bit outrageous, and they were able to increase prices after gaining all the market share and virtually getting rid of taxi services. Now, with the actual cars we all use and drive, car manufacturers in the United States consist of GM, Ford, and Stellantis. Not only that, but Volkswagen controls most of the European cars we see in the US as well. There are many car brands in the market to choose from, but in reality, there are only a few parent companies that end up controlling all these brands, which limits a true free market and competitive pricing. I mean, it is no wonder why there has been no major innovation in the US, with cars just keeping on increasing in price, while China's cars are pretty much leagues above the US, but not allowed in the market. Now, I know this is referring to electric vehicles primarily, but the point still stands. Finally, let's talk about technology, which is what we use and watch and interact with on a daily basis. Funnily enough, YouTube is basically a monopoly if you think about it. I mean, on a global scale, what other platform is this huge with this much free content along with being owned by Google, the company with the largest market share in advertisement space, which allows it to maximize revenue? There's also Instagram and TikTok, which are big players, but they are more competing with each other with short-form content and controlling what gets shown with their algorithms, even though YouTube Shorts is also a big player in short-form content. In a way, it's still an oligopoly in the social media space since they are the biggest players in grabbing consumers' attention and keeping them on the platform as long as they can. But besides that, we have more things such as phones, online shopping, memory, and many more. With phones, we primarily have iOS with iPhones and Android for literally every other flagship phone on the market. Now with Apple owning iOS and Google owning Android, they control the market and payment systems on their devices, taking up to 30% in fees processed through their app stores. I mean, what else are you supposed to do if you're a mobile app developer? You are limited to only these 2 markets, which both screw you over. With this up to 30% cut, the consumer ends up paying for it in the long run, so nobody really benefits besides the companies that control the app stores. In the online store space, Amazon takes control and outcompetes everyone else with their low prices, huge variety, and free shipping with Prime subscriptions. Now this benefits the consumer in this case, but for sellers, you are extremely limited as you have only one market to sell on, in which they take about 30% of the revenue, which doesn't account for the cost of production, leaving sellers with a lower margin of profit than most people may think they end up taking. Something that we might not think matters as much, but the chips that run our world are almost all manufactured by TSMC, controlling about 60% of global foundries and 90% of advanced chips. This means that other huge technology companies go to TSMC for the latest and greatest advanced chips to use in their products as they are far ahead of their competitors. This one company is what is powering a lot of AI growth, memory, and modern technology. I mean, the whole global economy based on advanced technology relies on TSMC. There is a reason for this being closely considered a monopoly though. They are literally just better than all of their competition, and the standard to reach them is so high, so it makes sense why everyone keeps going back to them for all their chip production needs. What to take away from this though, is since TSMC is the only real player in the space, if they decide to raise prices on chips, companies will still go to them regardless, because there's nobody else to go to who can do what they do. But who do you think is going to have to end up paying for that price increase? The company or the consumer? I mean, should be obvious enough who it always ends up going to. Now, there are many more instances of these types of monopolistic and oligopolistic markets around us, but I feel like these are the ones that we just cannot avoid and are virtually too powerful for anything to be done about them at this point. But let me know what you guys think about this and if you learned something new from this video. If you enjoy this type of content, please give this video a like and consider subscribing. I'll see you guys next time.